Good afternoon and welcome back to your Rangers Review post-match show. It's Chris Jack, myself in the hosting chair this time. We have switched sides. We have switched sides of the screen. Josh freezing himself up in Dingwall to go through Rangers 3, Ross County 0. At least you have some goals and 3 points to warm the soul ahead of the drive back to the road. Josh, what did you make of it?
Well put. Do you know, I thought it was better. Rangers scored as many goals away from home. I think 3 in the league as they had in their previous 6 away games in the Scottish Premiership, and I think that kind of told the story of it. It wasn't like a fantastic performance, but much like the Kilmarnock game, less emphatic than Kilmarnock, but a step in the right direction for Clement. We'll get on to the reasons why that was, in particular in the attacking areas, but it's by far and away, I think, the most comfortable that the Rangers have looked away from home in the Scottish Premiership all season. They conceded a few opportunities after the break, not too many, a couple from corners, still haven't scored from a corner or a set piece, obviously. But all in, I think it was a good day for Clement, a good day for Danilo, a good day for Igaman, and what everyone will be coming away from watching this game saying, Chris, is don't Rangers look like a far better team when they've got Danilo in it, when they've got Igaman in it, when they've got Yanis Hadji in it, and there's a bit of rotation, unpredictability in that front four, because the story of Rangers away from home has been when they have won a game, it's been very much edged. There's not been much in the way of entertainment. They haven't been clinical. The front four that, again, we'll come on to discuss, and the structure of them that's been different in the Kilmarnock game and the Ross County game, that's the big talking point from this week, because Rangers are 9 goals for 0, and that has not been the story of their domestic season up until this point.
It does feel a case of where has that been? I think I mentioned this to Derek last week or the other day after the Kelly game. It feels like where has that been all season? It's not as if the players that have played well in the last couple of games and that front four, as you touched on, it's not as if they are just in the building, to coin a Clement phrase, and they've been there for several weeks now, and it's taken a bit of time for Igaman to come to the fore. Also took a bit of time for the Hadji situation to be resolved. He's been really impressive since he came back in. We're now seeing seeing more of Danilo now that he's over one injury he had in the summer and then the setback. Cherny, I think, has been really consistent over the last couple of weeks. But that four, I think, individually and collectively, it's just looked so much more exciting from a Rangers perspective. It's not. Now, how many times have we done these videos post-match and we've spoken about it being slow, being pedestrian, being turgid, really lacking in, not just lacking in goals, but lacking in guile, lacking in creativity. That front four, it's got that. It's not perfect. There's still a lot more to come from them, hopefully. But who out of those four, who was the pick of them for you? And now, how do you sum up just the difference that four has made compared to what Rangers have produced so often over the course of the season?
Yeah, no, you're right, and Clement should be given some level of understanding, because he's not, as he spoke about in his post-match press conference, he's not had Danilo available for the majority of his career at Rangers as Rangers manager. He's not had the striker from the bench to allow him to necessarily play Hamza Igaman up top with Dessers. The role that Danilo's playing today, I don't think that works with Igaman, because if you think back to when Igaman played against Hibs, for example, Chris, where he was hooked at half-time, there's a big difference. I think we'll have this in a little bit more, we'll have it explained a little bit more in tomorrow morning on the website. But it's not like a static front four. So Igaman isn't playing as a number 9 who has to hold the ball up and be a focal point, because that doesn't suit him. He can drift wide. Danilo can move up from the number 10 spot. Hadji's not isolated off the ball. I don't think he's been bad off the ball, but I think that's one of the reasons that he wasn't necessarily seen as the out-and-out Rangers number 10 in the summer. And also, if you look at his international career, a lot of it is played as kind of a false winger off of one of the sides, where he still can become a number 10 in possession, but he's not. He's static. So there's the rotation that helps that, but also it means you probably take away a little bit of the weakness of Igaman's game, or the rough edges, whatever you want to call it, and that he's not someone who he's still learning the game and still learning probably elements of the game tactically, especially at a higher level. So that's, I think, made Rangers look a lot better. Yes, you need to give Clement a bit of understanding because he's not had players, but he has, I think, he's a manager who doesn't change that much. The scene of the crime very much was here last year, Chris, when Rangers lost 3-2, and back then it was a story of square pegs and round holes. That's been a story of a lot of Clement's I think this week he's changed things slightly, because when Igaman came on away at home against Dundee United, he came on the left wing. And when when Danilo came on last week against St Johnstone, you expected him to go up top, Igaman to go to the left, and then Hadji to move to the number 10 spot. So when Hadji moved left and Danilo was off Igaman, you kind of thought, is this another example of Clement doing square pegs and round holes and maybe not getting the best out of individuals? I actually think you've got to give him credit this week, because that rotation that I've just mentioned, I think kind of covers all those different players. And it crucially, as you rightly say, it makes Rangers' attack more unpredictable. Look at the first goal today. It's Igaman. He's picking the ball up on the left-hand side. It's Chefty, who I thought was really strong today again, getting beyond, creating the opportunity for him. And there's your number 9. He's in a different position, can pick the ball up unopposed as a result and scores the goal. Look at the second goal. Danilo, who's your number 10, jumping up into the number 9 spot to press and score a goal. Not that dissimilar to the one that Alfredo Morelos scored at that same goal a number of years ago. So in summary, I think it's more unpredictable, Chris, and that helps. You've got players on an individual basis, like Hadji's can play off his right foot or his left foot. Igaman and Danilo can go beyond or can go short. At the start of the season, Rangers' attack felt so incredibly one-paced. And you're right, we can sometimes throw cliches away when we're talking about attack and play. But today, I think they're all appropriate, because if you're Ross County, you've just got more eventualities to consider when you're playing that front four as opposed to the front four that played at the start of the season. And I thought Rangers' overall team performance looked a lot better as a result of it, and it was more clinical up top as well, which again is slightly cliche, but it takes the pressure off the defence when you do concede those set piece opportunities that Rangers did in the second half, and they go in up and score a really good third goal to add a bit of a cushion as well late on.
A couple of the comments probably sum up how the 90 minutes unfolded. Maka there saying a tricky surface. I think we certainly saw that second half when the sun when the sun changed and became a bit lower. You could see almost every bump and every divot on that pitch. So Maka saying good 3 points, job done. James saying it was a nice win, and Michael I think making a good point to say let's not get too carried away. There's obviously bigger tests to come this week in terms of Spurs Thursday night and then going into Celtic. You've just spoken to the manager in his press conference. What did you take from it, and how did he not just assess what has just happened, but certainly what's to come over the next few days?
Yeah, well, I think Michael, it was Michael's points, right, is that it's only 2 games Rangers have won, but if you compare it to the rest of this season, they've not won. They've not won many games comfortably. I think that's only the 4th game of 14 or 15 league games where their winning margin has been by more than 1 goal. As mentioned, it's the first time away from home in the Scottish Premiership this season that they've won a game that comfortably. Yes. Next week, I think that European games Rangers have tended to be good away from home. It's these type of games here, Chris, or at home at Ibrox, where Rangers have had the ball and had to be the kind of protagonists that they've really struggled this season under Clement. Now, the Old Firm is a topic in and of itself. We won't get into that today because we're going to have plenty of time covering it throughout the course of the week. Clement hasn't won one of those games in 5 attempts, and Tottenham at home, and who knows what could happen there. I do genuinely feel like it could go quite emphatically one way. Maybe not emphatically in Rangers' favour, but Spurs aren't in great form, and Rangers have been good in Europe. Equally, you look at the potential for you look at the wins they've had away from home: 3-0 against Manchester United, 4-0 against Manchester City. And that's why I think Clement was pretty encouraged in the press conference today. He spoke about Danilo. That was kind of, I'd say, the main talking point, Chris, the fact that he's not had him available for 11 months. Interestingly, he said he still feels he's not at the level as when he came into the club this time last year, a little bit earlier than this time last year. You can probably see that in Danilo's performances. He's not quite playing 90 minutes. I don't think he's quite got that turn of pace back yet, but he's an intelligent player, like Hadji, who I think who makes players around them better, and he brings other people into play. Dessers has scored a fair amount of goals for Rangers. We know what he is. We know what he isn't. He's not a player who improves others around him. Similarly, I think if you take Dessers and Lawrence, they're not players who can do what Igaman scored for that first goal, which is go into a different area of the pitch and receive it as a left winger and maybe shoot from distance. Hadji, I think we've just mentioned, he's maybe not playing as an out-and-out number 10, but that ability to play on either side, take a bit of responsibility. I actually think he's looked quite good off the ball as well. It's always been something that's levelled against him, Chris, but I don't think he's I don't think that's been an isolating isolating factor for him. So Clement trying to, I guess, build a bit of momentum, explaining why he thinks the attack and play is starting to click, but more than anything tactical, it's about individuals for me and the ability of those individuals to, well, I guess it is tactical, to go into those areas that we've just discussed, and then having the likes of Danilo and Hadji in the final third lifts the levels of others around them, because they're two players who are intelligent football players and bring other people into play as well. It takes a weight off someone like Cherney, who should have done better with a couple of opportunities today, but he's spent his time over the last couple of months. He's had quite a few games where he's maybe been the one carrying other teammates, so it starts to share the burden out, I guess, a little bit in the final third for Rangers.
Obviously, as Hugo Bear touches on here, Danilo Hadji now rested on Thursday, not eligible for the Europa League. Hamza Igaman is available for Europa League. He's obviously got European goals already. The manager was asked post-match about him being a talisman off this side, and Clement said he didn't like the word talisman because it means if he's not playing, we cannot win games. We don't want to create a team like that because then it becomes easier for opponents. I also spoke about Danilo coming in, about the role that Dessers has still got to play. Again, Igaman comes up with a big moment now, maybe gets a slight bit of fortune, but as I said in my analysis piece, he offers that type of threat. Something I think I didn't really see a lot from Rangers at the start of the season, and it sounds fairly basic for a forward line actually having shots on goal. If you don't have a shot from that distance, you never know what will happen. I think Rangers have been guilty of overplaying, trying to be too intricate when the moves haven't really been there at times earlier on in the season. Igaman, combined well with Jefte, gets the ball. First thought is to try and advance it, to try and get a shot on goal. Yes, he gets that bit of fortune, but he has brought something that's just completely different. The manager will continue to say Dessers has a role to play. He obviously got his goals against Kelly the other night, but Rangers just look a far more effective and dangerous and a better to watch side with Igaman in that forward line.
Yeah, they do, and he's actually just good fun as well, isn't he? And
there's not been much fun this season.
There's not. I think similarly to Chefty, when you see Igaman play, it doesn't look like he's playing with the weight of the world on his shoulders, and that's probably quite beneficial. Rangers need a team of a lot of this. You heard this at the AGM as well, of the type of player Rangers want to recruit. And Igaman, as we've talked about on the website over the last couple of weeks, is very much, I think, indicative, alongside Chefty, of that new approach. Two players who relatively, obviously Chefty was cheaper than Igaman, but got for relatively low fees. And like Danilo, he's got that ability to come short, pull in behind. Rangers, while especially they've not had a left winger, I think it's been a bit of a surprise that maybe it's been because Clement has only had two strikers for a lot of the last year in the club, sometimes only one, but has been a bit of a surprise that we've not seen him in the starting 11, because he gives you that kind of driving option from the left-hand side. You've also, I think, because Rangers have probably spent more time in the opposition's final third here and at St Johnstone as well compared to previous away games, Chefty spending more time in the final third too, and certainly early on I thought he started really brightly and gives you that pace on the last line that otherwise you're looking at that starting 11. There's not many players who are going to run away from their men. Maybe that's increased with the likes of Igaman and Danilo in there somewhat, and it's going to be interesting to see what Clement does on Thursday night, because I think we know what the bigger game is. It's obvious. Will he, the team that played here today, will he go for that? Will he keep Hadji in? I'm not totally convinced that he'll do that, Chris. I think you might see the likes of a Diomande Raskin and Barron midfield to try and match up Celtic. I would expect Dujon Sterling to come back in, who obviously trained this week and played 25 minutes ahead of James Tavernier, who's played well, scored a really good goal. But Rangers need to change their approach for domestic football, games like this, to big games like Old Firm games, like European games, something they've not done successfully throughout the course of this season and well beyond that as well. It's going to be interesting to see what Clement does. I wouldn't be surprised if you maybe see, do you keep Igaman in the starting 11 for Thursday if he can play both games? Yes, absolutely. I'd definitely be starting him at Hampden next week. Cyril Dessers is going to play it somewhat and has played it at some time. And I guess for Clement, it's deciding how does he balance out the forced rotation with Danilo and Hadji having to come out of the team on Thursday, but also trying to keep a number of these individuals fresh. Because I thought, for example, Raskin today, without being spectacular, continues to just make that midfield look better by being in his natural position in number 6. So it's Celtic, I think, playing Tuesday night. So it's a difficult balance for Clement to strike between getting a good result on Thursday and competing well, but also looking ahead to what's a bigger game the weekend after that.
You mentioned there a player not playing with the weight of the world on his shoulders. James Tavernier, that accusation has been made of him at times this season. Really looked very un-Tav-like at the start of the season. But as John says there, that's another goal for Tav. There's a really, really nice strike, a lovely kind of curve on it. If you're sitting right behind it in the press box as you would have been there. He wasn't had a great angle of that one going in. Nice to see Tav getting back amongst the goals, but as you say, with Spurs coming up, we do expect Dujon to come back in and play in that right hand side. But is Tav's recovery, if you want to phrase it as that, showing that if you do give him a rest, if you do take him out the firing line a wee bit, perhaps take a bit of that weight of the world off his shoulders, even just slightly, that you can actually get the benefits of him. He doesn't have to play every single game to still be an effective player for Rangers.
Yeah, I think so. And also, again, it's no surprise that I know he didn't score against St Johnstone, but had Jason Holt not been there, it would have been Tavernier who finished it, and he creates the goal by pressuring him. So you're looking at then two times in the week he's made that kind of trademark run to the back post and obviously got that strike as well. Probably no coincidence, again, that it's 3 games that Rangers, compared to games earlier in the season, have dominated a bit more. It's allowed him to then attack the box a bit more frequently. These are games that I think can suit him, Chris. And for me, I think the right back debate this year has been as simple as Dujon Sterling is going to be your right back. It's going to be your first choice right back. I think in big games there is an argument. This next week will tell us a lot, but I suspect he will be regarded as that by the time that the team sheets come out for the Celtic game. Now, Clement's obviously not going to come out and vocalise that with his other right back being his captain, but we've seen enough of the opposite to know that I don't think Tavernier's had many of his best games up against Izameda in the last couple of seasons. I think against Lyon earlier in the campaign, he had a really difficult night at Ibrox and he was replaced around the hour mark. He spoke last weekend pretty defiantly about the fact that he still thinks he can play 3 games every week. I just think Clement can solve that issue quite easily, as he started to do over the last couple of months. We obviously didn't see it at the start of the season as much, by playing Tavernier in games he's better suited for, and he's going to remain an important member of the squad until the end of this season at least, and then playing Dujon Sterling, who's a better defensive fullback, who's younger, who has more potential, and I don't think it serves Rangers by keeping him on the bench for games like Spurs and Celtic, by playing him in those fixtures. It'll be intriguing to see what happens, Chris, but I think that's the best case scenario, certainly until the end of the season. You keep Tavernier fresh for games like this that suit him, allow him to spend more time doing what he does best, which is contribute going forwards. And Dujon Sterling, I think when he's coming at right back, even if it's been irregular, even if he's been still building up his fitness and he's had a few unfortunate issues throughout the course of this season, he's a man that rarely does a winger go past them, whether that be the Olympiacos game or the Nice game away from home. And that is going to be the requirement more than the opposite way for Rangers in these games against Spurs and Celtic. If you're thinking about, when a Michael Beale team or a Steven Gerrard team, and the requirement of the right back to be one of the more advanced players is different, and maybe then you say, well, you will need more from your right back going forward. The course of these 2 games over the course of the next week, I think the demand is more on a fullback who can stop things going the other way, and that's why I'd suspect it might be Dujon Sterling back on the pitch today that gets the nod for those 2.
We will finish with a final comment from John saying, get a thumbs up for the RR team. Cannot agree more. Josh, a fine effort from yourself as always. We'll let you go and get yourself down the road. Obviously plenty to come on the channel over the next few days. Plenty to come on the website as we build up to Spurs press conferences on Wednesday, game on Thursday, another press conference Friday, and then the small matter of the League Cup final on Sunday. So join us on the channel. Keep across all the best use, insight, analysis on the website. Josh, safe home, and thank you for joining us.